wolf you feed will be the wolf that you'll survive
That wins
with,
the fight.
Choose your wolf, choose your lifestyle as well. So reverse engineer everything. Go out to lifestyle and then go, what does it take to have this?
It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey there, before we kick off, I want to share a really important thought. 71% of you who watch this channel frequently don't subscribe. So if you've enjoyed any video you've ever watched, can you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps the channel more than you think, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. So let's go.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Adrian, welcome to the podcast. Before I hit the record button, we'd been talking for about half an hour plus about all sorts of things. And I had to interrupt and say, mate, we've got to record a podcast. So here we go. We're recording the podcast. But I do want to bring into the conversation some of the stuff we've just been talking about because I find it fascinating. Before we do that, you've been on the podcast before. You're a repeat offender. You've got your own podcast, Talk Design podcast. We'll put the links in the description for that, and Adrian Ramsay Design House, that sort of stuff. But can you give us a little bit of a background story, how you got into design and architecture and all of that sort of cool stuff?
Sure, man.
I like to find out about people's passions.
Their passions. Well, Mick, thanks so much for having me back. And look, my passions are very much driven by my limitations. I am dyslexic. I've got ADHD. And so I wasn't like kicking big goals at school. I was kicking a lot of trouble around, but I wasn't kicking a lot of other stuff. I always think of Wayne Dyer saying, when he was at school, that the teacher came home and he complained to his mother that the teacher had said that he was a scurvy elephant. And she said, really? Went to and spoke to the teacher, and she said, no, I said a disturbing element. And I always think I'm the scurvy elephant. So that thing of, being highly distracted and also having the learning difficulty of the reading and the writing, and in a time when it wasn't even really known what dyslexia was. So I was very lucky. My dad is and was a fine artist, and he worked in advertising. And with that, I have a natural gift to be able to draw and a natural gift to be able to see things and translate them. And then I have a real curiosity with analytics as well. So I like to look at things and then work out how and why. And so as a kid, my first business was when I was at school. My mother wouldn't buy me a pair of jeans. She was like, nah, only hobos or, whatever, louts wear jeans. So I'm like, well, that's me, Mum, so I better get some. And she wouldn't buy me any. So I started, she said she'd do, she said, I've got a sewing machine. I'll buy you some material. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I'll buy you some denim. And you can make your own jeans. And anyway, with that, I tried a pattern, and that was just a waste of money and waste of material and waste of everything else. And so then I went, okay, get a pair of jeans from somebody that fit you reasonably well. And then I worked out how to not pull them apart, make a pattern off them, and then started sewing my own jeans. And I wouldn't say they were Levi's by a long stretch of the imagination. But I was dumb enough to think they were good enough. And I wore those jeans. And then, as a skinny adolescent, there was plenty of skinny adolescents at my school. And we had a school uniform where the kids were tall and, like they would be trying to buy men's dress trousers that were too big around the waist So it looked like a bloody paper bag around the waist, and then the legs would be halfway up their calves, and just a mess, eh? And so I used to say to the kids at school, if you've got a pair of jeans that fits, I'll make you your school formal trousers or your dress trousers from your jeans, and I won't damage your jeans. And so I started doing that. That was my first business.
What an entrepreneur at high school.
Yeah, and at high school, and that was the need to make money, or the need to have some freedom and set something up, and then also on the other side of that, something that was within my skill set. I was a straight A design, art student, and when it came to doing exams, I might get 99% in art, and then I might get 26% math or something like that. And so it wasn't a journey of success. It was a journey of failure, and that built resilience, and it built me learning to cope with who I was. And I think I was pretty angry a lot of the time because I was so misunderstood. But I could always design, and I could always outthink most people. So I could either throw them a red herring and send them sideways while I got time to think, or whatever. So that was my journey. So I ended up being a clothes designer for many years, self-taught, and ended up running New Zealand's biggest clothing company design-wise globally as a design director. And I also spent years specializing in women's swimwear and stuff like that. So I did all that, but right at school, I'd wanted to be an architect. And I couldn't be an architect because I didn't have the marks to get into university. There was no road to being an architect. And so I really developed those skills the first time I could afford a house and started altering it.
Like your jeans.
That's it, mate. And the rest was kind of history from that. I did that in New Zealand and did up houses and flipped them. And whilst I was working in the clothing industry, and then I went overseas and set up design in England for Europe for this New Zealand company. And a lot of people would know the New Zealand company. It's Canterbury of New Zealand. And
Yep.
I wouldn't call them a design-led company, but I learned a lot because of the level that I worked at in that company. So I came from like high fashion women's swimwear and stuff like that, but to get into that big corporate structure and understand corporate and understand, multiple markets, I ended up as design director for Canterbury of New Zealand, and then went to Europe, set up design with them there, and positioned the company really for its future as a clothing company from a design perspective. And so from that, I came to Australia. So I'd left New Zealand, I came to Australia, and I went, you know what, I really want to pursue this design, not clothing anymore. I was sick of being on a plane my whole life and, being traveling somewhere. And so I went, okay, how do I do that? So I started out with some interior design stuff, and then I started building design, and the rest is really history there. I'm not an architect, but I probably interview one a week for the Talk Design podcast. And I have a huge community of architects and interior designers and builders and stuff around Australia and New Zealand. Australia and New Zealand and the US. The US is my biggest market. And like, for instance, in February, I'll be at the Texas Society of Architects Design Conference, and so on. Like, I do a lot there. I do a lot with the AIA, being American Institute of Architecture, in Austin, Texas as well, and other spots. I've got, as I say, friends, architects all around America and the UK, Australia, New Zealand. So that's been my big education, really. I've been able to take what I knew or learnt, in the basics of building design, and then look at it from the architecture stuff from what an architect learns, without learning all the, what would I say, to be nice, without learning all the philosophy side of it, where they get caught in not creating a product but just creating drawings.
Yeah.
And my thing is if you're going to draw it, yes, you might get paid to draw the pictures and the plans and all those things, but there's no joy in drawing it if it's not built.
Yeah.
So build it. So you've got to then engage with the builder early, because most architects they may have some construction knowledge, and a lot of them do, but whether they've actually got costing, construction, and up to date, like systems and everything else to actually make a success of getting a house built, most of them don't.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
so
that's something that we run into all the time. Like with black belt, we have so many, and it's almost 100% strike rate. Where if something has been designed either by a designer or an architect or what have you, and a price has or a target
budget.
price budget has been talked about, that's locked into the client's mind, and then when the builder actually prices it up properly and accurately, it's like, no, and it doesn't get. And there's some crazy. It's somewhere around 80%. I've been led to believe of designs that are paid for to be designed don't come into reality. They don't get built. So that's a big issue.
So just think of this, at say for instance, an architect will charge you probably somewhere between about 9 and 15% of your build cost. So you rock in and you say, oh, my budget's $1
million.
Say yeah, well, there's
For ease of calculation.
Yeah, for ease of calculation. So 100 to 150 grand of that is probably going to go in architect's fees. And then you've got your engineering fees and any other compliance and all the rest. So either that's coming out of the project budget or it's coming out of the design budget, or the build budget. And so getting that clear is really important. If you do not have a builder to work with whilst you're designing, to value engineer, your chances of getting that there, I won't even say on budget, let's just say close to budget, is limited, eh?
Yeah.
It's really limited. So in my process, around concept 2, and I draw my concepts in pencil still, but they are scale plans, but old school. Around concept 2, we are engaging a builder on a preliminary contract, and that builder on the preliminary contract is engaged. We need to know they've got good systems. So we love coached builders, good systems. And then with those good systems, we can then go, okay, we can start to work towards getting it to work at the price, so the damn thing gets built and the person moves into that dream home. This is my kind of baseline on this. Somebody has a dream of a home, and they dream from magazine pictures to feelings to everything, and they imagine it. And if they're a couple, they infuse that dream together, and that creates a bigger dream. And they need somebody to guide them so that gets into the state of a drawing that somebody else can then price. And the idea is that dream that they've got, the person who's drawing it's just an intermediary, and the builder's just an intermediary. So if you're a builder, you're listening to this, don't get your ego out of check. And if you're a designer listening to this, your ego probably is out of check. So listen really carefully. The designer is the stepping stone. They're putting down a foundation stone in the planning stage. And if they don't put down a foundation stone that the builder can stand on, and the client and the designer, and then the builder can go forward from there, you've just put down your worst foundation. Yep. So we've got to put down this foundation. Now, if you were to put down a foundation without an engineer telling you, this is what it needs to be, you'd be taking your best guess. No soil test, none of that, if you're a builder. So you wouldn't do it. You'd go, okay, well, we need a soil test. You may do it, but you would put yourself in harm's way liability wise. But you'd go, we need a soil test, but you can look at it and you can go, oh, it might need to be 300 deep by whatever wide, or I need to pear bore this, or I need to waffle pod it, or whatever it is. You might have an idea, but at the end of the day, the engineer will tell you what that idea really needs to be to get to the next step. So if you're drawing pictures, pretty pictures of houses, and you don't know what the foundation's going to be or what that's going to take, you don't know whether you've got 35 grand to get out of the ground or you've got 350 grand to get out of the ground. So your budget's fucked from then.
Listen, yes, I agree. Before we hit the record button, we had a rant. We went off on all sorts of tangent about business coaching and so forth. And fundamentally, the purpose of this podcast, there's lots of builders that listen to this, and the purpose of the podcast is to help them build a better business to be able to deliver a more professional experience for their clients, but also help them with their life, their financial management, their planning, their mindset, their team building, all of that sort of stuff. And it was so fascinating, our conversation before I hit the record button. I should have bloody recorded the whole thing, but we probably would have got done for slandering people. but forget about that. You have had an extensive experience with all sorts of business coaching and not necessarily in the building industry, just business coaching. So I'd really like to have a bit of a conversation and ask a few questions about what you have learned from let's say a generic small business ownership point of view. What are some of the things that you learnt? Because you've come from corporate, right? And that corporate think is very, very different to small business think. There's lots of different budgets and accountability or lack of and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, you live from hand to mouth sometimes running a small business. So what would be something that you could pass on in this podcast that you have learnt from your journey of being a student of business coaching that would be worthwhile? Like, what are some of the mistakes, some of the errors that you found that you were making that through business coaching you've gone, shit, and now you don't make those mistakes anymore? What can you pass on?
Hopefully I don't make those mistakes anymore. Yeah. Look, I think there's a couple of really important ones. One is the law of vacuum. So we could get into mindset and all those things. Those are super, super important.
Yeah.
And, the wolf you feed will be the wolf that you'll survive
that wins the fight. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So choose your wolf, and choose your lifestyle as well. So reverse engineer everything. Go out to lifestyle and then go, what does it take to have this? And I'll give you a little example of that along the way. But one of the big ones is the law of vacuum. And so if you've got a single bank account that money comes into and money goes out of, the law of vacuum will suck that money out of there faster than you can put it in. It's scary. So my biggest one, and this was a beautiful learning from Bruce Campbell, EBS Business School for entrepreneurial business school, was divide up your bank accounts. So you have a trading account, and that's for trading in. Money comes in, money goes out. You have a emergency account, and an emergency account carries depending on the type of business. If you're a builder, I'd say it carries a bit more because your projects are long stream.
Yep.
But carries a minimum of 3 months of business operating expenses and paying yourself.
Yep.
Minimum.
Yep.
Minimum. That's baseline. And then have your profit account, which is, where you store your profit. So, and then have a tax account. That's where you store the ATO's profit for your hard work.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of others as well. Accounts, but with those, you may divide it up into percentages, or you may just keep it in certain places, locked in certain areas. One of the things that I find with that is, like, if you've got an emergency account and you know that there's 3 months or 6 months of living expenses in that account, and you're not touching it, it's on high interest, then you've actually got an opportunity to kind of just take a breath. Or I say to people, you get to breathe out instead of fucking holding it, wondering what's going to hit you. I think that's a golden rule: is have multiple bank accounts. Not one of them should have fees, and if you have to have fees, put it on the trading account only.
Yeah.
And that's money in, money out. I actually use a deposit account. Money comes into the deposit account, and then I swap it around from there. So I send an invoice comes in, X amount goes to the emergency account doesn't necessarily need topping up, but it goes to the profit account, it goes to the tax account, and then what are my outgoings that I'm going to have, that sits into the trading account. And then I have a thing which a lot of people in business don't like. I go, you send me an invoice, I pay it today if I see it today. And I find that, you get lots of people with theories around, I'll pay it in 60 days time and all the rest. I've found that, having done that for, 15 years, when I ask for something extra, often I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. That's brilliant right there.
Give me.
I hear that a lot, where people, if you've got 60 days, take 60 days. And it's like, no, I love that, because it's not only are you doing a deposit in their bank account, you're creating a deposit in the emotional bank account as well. And if you pay on receipt, you can get discounts, but you can get preferential treatment. You create fantastic.
You just get loved.
Exactly. Like, it's just such a wonderful thing. It sounds very, very much like what we preach and practice in Builder's Business Black Belt, which is Mike McCallowitz's Profit First. There's so many parallels, and it absolutely works, and I love it. But you mentioned the 3 months, which is same sort of thing. That's the war chest, we call it.
In building, you might need longer.
But
my
how do you get there?
About a year.
How do you get there is the question, because I can just hear somebody saying, a builder saying, "Oh, that's all right for you, mate." But how do you accumulate 3 months worth of expenses or more? What you're saying? How do you do that? To answer the skeptic, I know how you do it. I believe you should do it, but there's a skeptic. One skeptic listening to this podcast. Run them through how you might get there.
This is especially for that guy.
Yep. Everyone else is fine.
Yep. $1 at a time, buddy. That's how you get there. And if you go, look, my business operating expenses are, say, 30 grand a month. That's paying yourself as well out of that. So whatever it is, let's just say it's 30K. And let's just say that really you'd like 90K. And that 90K, remember, it's not yours, it's sitting in the business.
Yep.
It's not there for spending. It's there for when you need it.
Yeah.
You go, if there's a couple of ways. First one is can I charge 10% extra for the job that I do? Because most people are undercharging. And that's because they've got a self-worth issue and they don't believe in what they're bringing their client. So that's the first way. If you can charge 5%, 10% extra, don't take that as your money. Just start building your emergency account with it. Don't take it into profit. Just put it in your emergency account. If you get the opportunity to do like what I'd call a windfall, you might be a builder who, has 3 big projects on a year, and you get the opportunity to put a deck together or a pergola or whatever it is, something like this, not a big project, but you can sort of slip it in on the side, and there might be, say, 5-10 grand's profit in that, maybe more. Take that money.
Yep.
and put it straight into the emergency account and look for a windfall every quarter. So put it on your goal sheet. Every 30 days, I want one small windfall that I can make. Doesn't matter whether it's $2,000. Doesn't matter whether, I'd say you've got to start valuing your time at some point. But if you can make a windfall one that you can slide in and it increases the tension a bit, but you can manage it. That's
Can we
how
just
you build your
talk
emergency
about
account.
that? Like you call it a windfall. I call it, I don't know what I call it. I don't have a fancy name for it, but the smaller projects, because you talk to so many builders and they'll reject a lead because it's a small project. They want the full, greenfield build or the fancy Flash Harry extension or whatever it was. But there are these little things like a deck or a pergola or something. I haven't got time for all of that sort of stuff. In my mind, the benefit, and you've just reinforced it, the benefit of those smaller projects is that you have the opportunity to implement a refinement or a new approach to your systems and processes, your communications, your management, your strategy, to improve your business. And if you do it on the $1.5 million project and it shits itself, that's a big cost. But if you do it on the $25,000 deck or pergola or whatever, and it shits itself, it's not a bad thing. But the other thing is that I cannot tell you how many times we've unpacked a builder's business and we looked at the profit percentage and being able to capture the profit out of a project, and these smaller projects that you're calling windfall projects, I call them learning projects or learning opportunities, they are significantly more profitable than the bigger projects that everyone seems to, be trying to hang their hat on. What have you got to say about that? Because I bet you've got plenty to say. I bet.
Big projects are big ego.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with you. One of the hardest things in my industry is we're very people oriented. So because we believe that you're building somebody's dream, I don't like to put hours around how much time I'll spend with them to get to that dream. And you've got to do something, but I go, I'm not going to be shortchanging them. I'd rather charge more and give more if I have to. And you know how you get pain in the ass tax? Yeah. I say with all of these things is do not go after a big job based on it being a big dollar value. Go after a big job based on it being the right people to work for.
Yeah, love that.
And the other one, this is another really interesting one. So I had a client come to me a couple of years ago, it was about a year and a bit, came to me and said, I say that because it still hasn't broken ground, which is just a tragedy, but that's the client's problem or fault. This project came to me, and when they first spoke to me on the phone, they said it was they're probably about 900,000, and I went, yeah, I don't know that I want a $900,000 project. It's too small. Anyway, chat to them, and I said to them, look, I'll sell you my design discovery package, and I'll come out and have a chat. I really liked her. I didn't speak to them both at that point, but I really liked her, and I went, look, I'll come out, I'll do my land whispering and design discovery package with you. And from that, you'll have information. Whether it works out that we're the right fit or not, we'll see.
Yeah, nice.
But you'll have valuable information at that point. So anyway, they paid their money, and I went and did that. And I agreed to work with them on their project. But at that meeting, I have a process called Design Magic. And Design Magic is how do you take a dream and squeeze it tight enough and keep enough juice in it that you can put it into the budget. The dream's huge. How do you squeeze that into the budget size? And I remember going through, I've got a process and sheets and all the rest, and going through that with them. And we got to the bottom of the page and we're adding up figures. And I remember saying, So you can see, your project's well over $1 million. And so I'm sitting there waiting for an outcome, and they're like, well, we can spend more if we're going to get what we want. And I'm like, okay, well, you can see that it's just from the numbers we're done, and we're working on square meter rates. I'm not a builder. I'm just working on what it's going to be about, industry standard for this area, the builders I work with, etc. And they're like, yeah, okay, no, we can extend past that if we're going to get what we want. This is the genius of a small project. And I'd say, back in the real estate industry or the car industry, buyers are liars. And that project's got a budget of 4.1 million currently. And it hasn't been built. When I was designing it, we got to concept 11, and I pulled the rug out and said, hold on, it was actually 11C. I said, I told you that at concept 2 or 3, we needed a builder on board, because you're asking me now, how much is this going to cost? And I don't know, but I know that it's probably 3 million or more. And you need to get a builder. Are you okay with that? First thing, that's a lot of money, but they can afford it. The next thing is that it's if they can afford it, are they getting value for their money?
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's get a builder on board with this project. And anyway, they buggered around. We got 2 builders to come and talk to them. And that's the builder doing that for nothing at that point, just the opportunity. And, they're spending 2 or 3 hours on site with myself and the client. And this is a renovation and addition, by the way, not a new home. And from that, I said to them, we'll get a bit of feedback from those builders. If either of them are, interested in the job, will be one thing, and interested in working with you as people, that'll be another thing. I think I've matched them well out of the group of builders that I deal with. And so anyway, they chose a particular builder out of those 2 and put them on a preliminary contract. And that preliminary contract, the builder's been working through that, and they've got to plan, set, F. So what is this telling you, We should be able to do our plan, our conceptuals in about 5. And maybe a little bit of messing around beyond that, but about 5. And then we've handed ours over to our draftsman, and we are at F on that. So I think I've charged about the same amount in fees for changes and updates that I have in my original contract with them.
Wow.
And you know what? We just had the builder walk away from it due to the client wanted to alter the contract wording in a standard contract, and it left the builder exposed, and the builder's like, no, leave it alone, walk away. So now they're with another builder. So you think about these things,
Well, builders are getting a bad rap sometimes. And it's
not the builder's fault.
Not always. You do get the odd fella that needs to be chased down the road by the current affair cameras, but for the most part, builders are really trying to do the right thing, and the clients are the stick in the mud. They're the source of friction. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Adrian Ramsay. I certainly know I am. So from time to time, we just get into some pretty deep subjects, and the conversation goes a fair bit longer than what we traditionally put aside for our podcast episode. This is one of those conversations, and so we've turned it into part 1 and part 2. If you want to watch part 2, what I suggest you do is hit the subscribe button and hit the notification so you become notified of when the second part of this conversation comes out. We'll be really getting deep into some profoundly beneficial mindset hacks and ideas to help you with your building business. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications, and watch out for part 2 of Adrian Ramsay.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.